You know, when I send you
Hmm.
coffee,
Hmm.
it's going to be a wild one.
One of those days.
Ah,
Yeah.
let's do this thing.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
How about being a champion in the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship, the preview of the road to the Super Bowl, Bloom?
Mm,
It seems like there's part of the regular season that took forever. I
right.
think it was after Thanksgiving and then the Christmas and then the extra week in the NFL, which is bogus.
Yes.
And from a fantasy football perspective, we used to be done by Christmas, and now it's like, oh, now you will more. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh God. So, like, yes, there was a part of this season that went by so fast. And then there was a part of the season that drug ass.
Hmm.
And then the playoffs have been absolutely epic. Sigmund Bloom, can you believe we're here?
We are here. And what's nice, Cease, is that, first of all, and I saw someone say this in base camp. I want to give him credit, but I can't remember who. I don't remember anything. Uh, no matter who wins, it's going to be a good Super Bowl, right? Take any combination of these
Yeah.
teams, it's
Yeah.
going to be a good Super Bowl. It's going to be a Super Bowl to look forward to, and that's super exciting. And then we also see here on display the young quarterbacks, Mahomes and Burrow. You know, this reminds me. I'm going to go boxing here. There was a period, and for those of you that like boxing, you know about it. If you don't, check it out. Just go YouTube Hagler Hearns. There was a period where it was Roberto Duran, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns, and it didn't matter. Anytime you got to two them together, it was going to be something to remember. And that's what I feel like we have on the AFC side. And then on the NFC side, we have such an interesting contrast because we have Jalen Hurts. Does he belong in this conversation? Does he belong in the conversation of 40, $50 million year quarterbacks? He can cement that this year. And then San Francisco, the always curious case of San Francisco and the structure, the Shanahan structure, so close so many times. So this is really exciting. And then you're right, Cease. And I think you got sick of hearing me say the Lions are going to make the playoffs. Almost. You'll probably get sick of hearing me say, let's move back to week 16 as the fantasy football championship. All we need are no buys week 14, 15, 16. Let's make that a movement in fantasy football. And 17 weeks, 16 weeks of games, it means a lot because of the journey. It means a lot because of the time invested. And we're going to get a lot out of it when we watch these games.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot out of it. And when I watch and I overlook these upcoming matchups, Bloom, and obviously we're starting San Francisco and Philadelphia. One of these things is not like the other,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? One of these things is not like the other. I can't remember the rest of the damn song.
Sure.
I'm feeling sing-songy as I wake up with the Audible. You know, actually, that should mean like wake up watching it. I actually wake up doing it. I'm gonna go
Same
do it.
thing.
Yeah, but I look at San Francisco. I'm like, it's just so it's 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 interesting to
Yeah.
be sure, and I love Kyle. And I love the fact that they're here. Spoiler alert, I'm picking them to win. Sorry, Jason
Yeah.
Woods. Sorry, Eagles fans. But let's jump into this thing and we'll do the whole thing together, of course.
Sure.
Because it's Eagles and it's 49ers. And it's like, okay, who's the defense that can figure out Jalen Hurts? If there's one defense that can, San Francisco. Who's the
Yeah.
defense that can deal with AJ Brown? San Francisco. Who's the defense that
Right.
can deal with Dallas Goedert?
Right.
San Francisco.
Right.
So immediately you've already taken away, the Eagles offense. Now I
Right.
go, okay, Eagles defense. They've been better at stuffing the run. San Francisco's really not going to do that if they don't have to. Plus, they're good at stuffing the run and plugging it when you run up the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, San Francisco makes you move laterally. They wear your fat ass out as the game goes on. So those big bodies in the middle, like, yeah, if you run at them, they're going to be a brick wall. But if you make them move laterally and then in the third quarter, they're tapping their helmet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
get me out of
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is Elijah Mitchell's a little bit banged up, right?
Yeah. And
Came out of the
McCaffrey.
game, and McCaffrey a little bit banged up. Both will be fine, whatever. Brock Purdy, man. I
Yeah.
mean, I wanted to get to 4 games in, and I know people have mentioned like Sean King, the Buccaneers quarterback, everybody. I know people have mentioned like, okay, Mike Glennon, like we've seen some of these runs to Buccaneers quarterbacks before. I'm like, well, I wanted to get the 4 games to see what defenses had on him. It's still that's the system.
Yeah,
which,
it's the system.
again, makes the quarterback the least important part. So weird. It's weird.
It worked.
Man. It's weird.
Yeah.
As I just look at this game, I go, it's going to be a great one. Obviously, the Eagles are tough to contend with, but San Francisco's got everything they have, and they're able to deal with that team.
Yeah. Yeah, see, this one, when you look at this game, everywhere you look, it's like strength against strength, right? We're usually, when we want to break down games, I wish we could break down games like this during the regular season. We have the fantasy football lens to satisfy. When you talk about strength against weakness, rational coaching, where are you going to take advantage of it? It's strength against strength everywhere you look. So it's going to come down to individual plays, and it's going to come down to quarterback play. Would it surprise you to learn that Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts have faced each other before in college? 42-41. It was a game where Iowa State came back from down 21 points against Oklahoma and got back to a 2-point conversion. And Purdy tried to throw, tough throw, didn't quite make the throw. But Brock Purdy with Breece Hall and Iowa State could play with Jalen Hurts in Oklahoma. And so this is interesting. It was a pretty epic game. On the San Francisco side, offensively, yes, Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell are dinged up. You know who that sets up to be the MVP this game, right, Cease?
Debo.
Debo. And I just want to say again, because we're both connoisseurs of Friday, right? Just that there's a player in the NFL. First, there was James Harrison, who did not make the Hall of Fame this year, but he's going to make the Hall of Fame. I know it. He had the nickname Debo, right? But Debo Samuel is not a nickname. He's Debo. And boy, does he live up to that. And maybe he's going to take the Philadelphia bicycle in this game because, hey, if McCaffrey and Mitchell aren't able to carry the load or they get dinged during the game, is it bad? Is it maybe it could be the best thing that happened to this team if you get Debo Samuel's fuse lit. So strength against strength, right? Like you mentioned, Cease. You have this defensive line, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, get to know that name. Javon Hargrave, Steelers fans know that name. And Ndamukong Suh. Wow. Linval Joseph. But like you said, Cease, these are guys that can build a wall, but maybe not necessarily retrench and cover side to side. You also have in the pass rush, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham, Robert Quinn. We'll see if anything comes of that. Josh Sweat, who's back, making big plays. So they've got depth upon depth. Now, the linebackers have been a weakness for this defense, but they brought in Kazir White this year. That has helped a lot. And then you have this secondary. So here's where it gets interesting, right? Brandon Ayuk against James Bradbury or Darius Slay, and the other one on Debo Samuel. Maybe what's going to be interesting from a San Francisco scheme standpoint is Avonte Maddox is banged up. Very good slot corner. Now, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, C.D. Deuce, he has some experience as a slot corner, but he's also been that X factor creating turnovers in the secondary. So maybe that's a place that San Francisco tries to attack. But see, like you said, when we're talking about San Francisco's offense against Philly defense, it's not stopping Brock Purdy or stopping Brandon Ayuk or, by the way, George Kittle. It's
right.
It's the plays, and it's really being mentally agile. Because like we always talk about what this offense does. And see, as we're talking about all these offensive coordinator openings and head coach openings, what's the commonality? So many Kyle Shanahan, San Francisco types, so many Sean McVay types. And the whole idea was you're supposed to make the game easier for the quarterback because these NFL defenses are so good. And that's what everybody wants to do. And San Francisco is actually accomplishing it. And it's really just, I guess for Philly's defense, you can be as talented as all get out, but it's about doing your homework, right? It's about doing your study. And it's about understanding not just what personnel and formations lead to, but understanding how to stay mentally agile, to understand when you're put in conflict, how to stop the bleeding, minimize the damage, something like that. Now we flip over to the San Francisco side, and I love how you accentuated that San Fran defense, right? Because so, Cease, what do we always, when we talk about conference championship Super Bowls, like who's going to step up, who's going to grow, right? And the other thing about this one is Philly has its share of players with all of these teams have players with tons of playoff experience. Hence, I come back to the Hagler Hearns kind of stuff. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. These guys are big difference makers up front, but you also have the Philadelphia offensive line. That's a strength. You have A.J. Brown a little dinged up. And see, remember, what was the pause? What was the one pause when that trade happened?
Oh, he's hurt.
He's hurt.
Yeah, he can get hurt. He
And
plays with no regard for his personal safety.
Right. And it hasn't been a problem this year. He hasn't missed games. He hasn't really had a lot of issues with injuries. I don't think he's missed any games, but he's a little
It was
banged
like
up.
Evan Ingram with the Jags. You're like, and then he plays 17 games. He's like a stud. And you're like, oh.
Now he's a little banged up. Now you also have Trevor Ward, former Kansas City Chief, who's a number one corner. So this is a Devontae Smith game from a DFS or props standpoint. We love Deebo Samuel, and you got to like Devontae Smith in this one, because I think between Brown's injury and Ward probably matching up with Brown, it's a Devontae Smith game and maybe a Dallas Goedert game. But like you said, Cease, you got Drake Greenlaw, you got Fred Warner, you got some good coverage guys. And if you liked Troy Polamalu, you're going to like Talanoa Hufanga. And believe me, as a Steelers fan, lifelong Western Pennsylvania born and bred Steelers fan, I don't bring up that name lightly. But see, have you noticed with Hufanga, much like Polamalu, it's almost like he gets the instructions from God himself before the play. Like, this
at
is
the
where
right
you need
moment possible, he makes the right play that nobody would have guessed unless they were like touched by the hand of God.
Yeah, something, man. The football gods, right? So Hufanga, sees if there's a game, if there's a play that decides this game, that is just somebody doing something they weren't supposed to be doing, that wasn't part of the play call, that's your guy, Hufanga, who's just a budding star. And also Jimmy Ward. And I also want to mention this. We put all this praise on San Francisco's offense, because whoever the quarterback is, it doesn't matter, right? It's the structure of the plays, it's execution, also a really good offensive line and skill players, but you get it. How about the fact that, with the exception of Trevor Ward, they've just been churning through a bunch of anonymous cornerbacks, right? It doesn't matter because of the quality of this defense. And again, how many coaches have left, right? Even the front office, Rand Carthon now is going to run things in Tennessee because it's all of it, right? It's restocking the roster, so there's always the next man up, and it's coaching these guys up. And you can see D'Amico Ryans again. It's probably he's going to coach his last game as a 49ers defensive coordinator at some point. Haven't mentioned Miles Sanders yet in the Philly running game. And maybe that's the key, Cease. Maybe that's the key, is for Philadelphia's running game just mulched the Giants. Boston Scott scored again. He scored every time he's faced the Giants. That's crazy. They just mulched the Giants. And the Giants' run defense isn't bad. So is that what you do? You have all these athletic guys. You have all these smart players, but you just put them on skates. You just say.
But it's a staring contest too. Like, who's going to be more patient with the ground game? And
right.
I'm biased because I'm Kyle, but yeah, give me Kyle Shanahan in that staring contest.
But Miles Sanders has the ability to break individual plays on his own. And he, unlike McCaffrey and Mitchell, he's not hurt. So maybe that's an X factor. It's just Philadelphia staying with the running game, limiting Jalen Hurts to 20-25 pass attempts, make those pass attempts count. What can you say, Cease? These are impossible games to call. It's impossible. If you have some sort of certainty about how these games are going to turn out, then, I want to have some of what you're having, because it's going to come down to coaching. It's going to come down to individual plays. It's going to come down to things, maybe the oblong ball factor. This is why we pay so much attention, because we see great teams with great players with this much on the line. And like I said, this matchup, when you look at it, it's strength against strength everywhere you look. And that means, again, it's going to be about, what do we remember from the playoff season? When you have your life flash before your eyes, you think of all the NFL playoffs you watched, it's the individual plays.
Yeah, it's Troy Polamalu jumping over the pile to pile drive Joe Flacco on a fourth down.
Right. Dwight Clark or Donovan McNabb to Freddie Mitchell.
James Harrison, you mentioned.
James Harrison. Right. The Philly special. And, and that was one, maybe it was coaching, but also the mental plastic nature to be like, oh my God, we've been sitting on this all. We're doing it. We're actually doing it now, So it's exciting. And we do watch a lot of games during the regular season that make us wonder about our life choices. But these games always pay off. And this game, I have no idea how it's going to turn out. The players don't know how it's going to turn out, and it could. And in these games, both of them, cease. They're probably going to have overtures. They're probably going to have sections of the game, like Cincinnati and Kansas City last year. There's going to be sections of the game where you feel like it's all going one team's direction, and it's the mental toughness and the belief the teams have in themselves that gets them this far in the first place, and maybe gets them to the next step. And the other thing I just got to mention, Brock Purdy. Cease. Here's our sample size of rookie quarterbacks starting in the Super Bowl. 0. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, has a chance to be the first rookie starting quarterback.
Think of that from a probability standpoint.
Yeah.
Impossible.
But when you say that, Cease, but if you would say the first rookie quarterback from the start, the first starting rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl would come from a Kyle Shanahan team, you say, yeah, makes sense. Okay. Yeah, that's actually probably like obvious. The writers aren't being too creative there. So, and then Jalen Hurts and Jalen Hurts' story. And let's remember Jalen Hurts' story. And this is a good moment to point this out with Josh Allen, because Josh Allen hasn't even been to an AFC title game yet, right? He hasn't even been to it. He hasn't been to the Super Bowl. He hasn't even been one step from the Super Bowl. And Ty Dunn, our guy, we're not recapping the previous games. Love Ty Dunn. Now
it's awesome.
I'm so pleased to say he's an Audible alum now, on the couch alum. He wrote a pretty scathing piece about Sean McDermott. Pretty scathing, basically saying like Sean McDermott's not going to get this team to the Super Bowl.
Well, and that's the thing. Like when you get to a certain point, you take inventory of where you're at every day. Like Sean McDermott, this is you, man. I know a lot of people blaming Josh Allen, and there's a conversation to be had around that. But yeah, when I saw Buffalo fall, I was like, oh, Sean McDermott needs to go. As much as I love him, and I have people in that building that tell me how great he is and what a difference he was from Rex Ryan, that was years ago. You know, are you John Fox or are you Gary Kubiak? Because with Foxy, they can only go so far. With Peyton Manning throwing 55 touchdowns, they can only go so far. You get Gary Kubiak, now you've got the guy that can take you to the next level.
Right. And I'm not saying fire Sean McDermott. Really, I'm just bringing this up to say that no matter how good you are, no matter how good
saying you're wasting more time. We're doing the same dance with Buffalo. It's been 3 years.
Right.
Like I hate to sidetrack on a Buffalo thing.
No.
Like hey, baby, come on. New. We can't keep doing this unless you guys are going to get a power back, which they seem to be averse to. But like, there's only a couple things they can do. You can waste more time with Sean McDermott, or you can get a damn power back and run the damn ball. Like, come on. You pass all day. That's great. Playoffs, run it down their throat. You can't do that when Devin Singletary's like 200 pounds. Okay. And James Cook is 180 pounds.
And you need a coach who, in the moments that it matters, will trust his players to make plays. You come that far. If you need to put it in Josh Allen's hands on a 4th and 2, well, okay, I'll take those odds, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Josh Allen. So anyway, I bring that up to say, getting to the Super Bowl, you can be a really good team, a really good quarterback, really good players, and never make the Super Bowl. Lots of great teams never made the Super Bowl, right? So for Jalen Hurts, who's been through so much in his career, right? Replaced by Tua in the national championship game, goes back to the same stadium and wins the SEC championship game when Tua gets hurt. You know, plays at Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley, falls to the late second round, which is a death knell for NFL quarterbacks mostly.
Didn't really have a good Senior Bowl on the same field as Justin Herbert. There were times when Steven Montez looked better than Jalen Hurts. Hurts had to fight for it. Had all the doubters, like all I can do is run. Then they get him A.J. Brown. This is where I love Howie Roseman. This is why I'm so conflicted, because I love Kyle, but I also love Howie. Because Howie's like, you know, screw it. And made the big move. Go get A.J. Brown. Look at what it's done for Jalen Hurts.
And on many levels. And what a journey, too, because remember, at the end of Hurts' rookie year, that was Doug Peterson getting fired. It was Hurts being replaced by Nate Sudfeld to basically hand the division to an opponent. Just a terrible moment for the Eagles. That wasn't that long ago. It was not that long ago. And now Jalen Hurts is on the cusp of taking the asterisk. You know, statistically, he may belong. Wins, losses, he may belong. MVP voting, he may belong. You win this one against the San Francisco defense, and you do belong. You belong in the Super Bowl. I can't wait. And there's going to be another game after this one.
Yeah, exactly. So are you picking this one or no? Because I said I'm picking San Francisco. My heart is in San Francisco. Isn't that a song, Bloom?
Yeah, left my heart in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Tony Bennett.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I don't know. What does Vegas say about the line? So pick something that's about the line, and then
Right.
here we go. Like 27, 24. I mean, just beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like Snowball from Clerks. It's beautiful, man. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Like I just want to watch this game.
Yeah.
And I'll be in Vegas for the Shrine Bowl. There's another Shrine Bowl rip for Will C and others. But yeah, so when I'm in Vegas after practice, hurriedly,
Right.
like getting done with practice, like my practice report can wait. I gotta watch this game, baby. So give me a sports book, give me a tumbler with some ice, and a couple ducats, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, baby, it's I'm gonna pick San Francisco, but I just want to watch this game.
Yeah. It reminds me of on our road trip to the first Senior Bowl we went to together. Our first Senior Bowl, both of our first Senior Bowl, right? We stopped and watched that amazing Patriots Colts AFC title game in the Chili's in Baton Rouge, I think. And how do you pick this game? I guess for me, it's going to come down to experience and specifically coaching experience. Nick Sirianni, hats off to you, Nick Sirianni.
Yeah.
His name doesn't get mentioned enough, right?
No.
His name does not get mentioned enough. However, the air gets thinner the higher you go on the mountain. Kyle Shanahan's been there. These players have been there. And it is that trust in the system, right? Isn't it so much easier to just put it all in God's hands when you know your system works? You trust the plays, you trust your teammates, you trust the execution. And we'll see. This is a Philadelphia team, I think, that down the stretch. The other thing is Jalen Hurts might not be 100% healthy. But this is a Philadelphia team down the stretch that looked mortal. They didn't look like the team. And they had some moments earlier in the year where they looked mortal, too.
And let's talk about the battle before the battle. I would have much rather faced the Cowboys.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I would have much rather gone through Dallas in a hard-fought game. We could make fun of Dak or whatever, that last play or whatever. Like, we can do all those things, but we can also recognize and realize Dallas was a hell of an out.
Yeah.
Dallas was a hell of an out. You beat up on the Giants, and we love the Giants. We love Brian Daboll. They're pretty shorthanded and all that. So the Eagles kind of had this coast. I would much rather take the battle-tested team into this sort of game than the team that had to blow out and just kind of put it on cruise control.
Yes. And also remember the Eagles got a break when the Giants beat the Vikings, or they would have been playing the Cowboys last week. And then they would have had to come out. Now, maybe that would be better. Maybe that would have woke them up, and we'll see. But I'm just going to enjoy this game. I'm going to enjoy this for the players that get to triumph. Feel bad for the players that get this close. For San Francisco, you just wonder, how many times do you have to get this close? And last year, they almost made the Super Bowl. So I'm going to say pick San Francisco here. But I think there's so many great players in this game, and there's inspired coaches that it could come to this. Both of these games, Cease, I think we could have 3 or 4 moments, just like Kansas City and Buffalo last year. We're like, that's going to be the play that decides the game. No, that's going to be the play that decides the game. So yeah, enjoy.
I have a sense though, Bloom. I am a little bit scared.
I'm going to say 2017, by the way. 2017. Let's take the under. I saw Diego said
it
seems like
I took the over, you take the under.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good, baby. I'll throw some ducats down for us. But anyway, I'm a little bit scared because I feel like this game will be like, it's that play, and then it's that play, and then there's going to be some turnover. That's all it is.
A mistake. Yeah, I don't want these games to come down to mistakes.
It's going to be one like interception, one like tip pick, tips and overthrows. Got to get those, right? Like, I think there's going to be one of those where it's just going to be like gut punch. Right. And for both teams, I'm actually rooting for both teams because I love Howie and I love Kyle.
Yeah, that's the easy. I mean, that's what's easy is we'll be happy for whatever team wins. And you want it to be not a mistake, but it's just an outstanding individual play. But I think when you put it in those kind of terms, that's like a Brock Purdy throwing behind a receiver or something like that.
Right,
so again,
right.
All right, going back to where I started, I have no idea how to pick this game, but I'm going to enjoy watching it.
Yeah, going to enjoy watching it. Okay. That was 24 minutes on that game. I think we're okay.
Yeah. We're excited.
24:40 is the time that we go to Bengals and Chiefs. Sorry, everybody, doing the timestamp thing. Bengals and Chiefs is up next. And this one, just drink it in. Just drink it in. I told you as soon as we started the show, I said, I think I'm taking both of the road teams.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really think, and I say this with all due respect to Arrowhead, because I know Chiefs fans already don't like me. But you'll be fine, and I'll be fine. I don't think home field really matters with Joe Burrow.
No.
Like, it'll be loud, it'll be crazy. The fans will be flipping off the sorry Joe the bus as they go around, right? Like, and Chiefs fans, they got that tradition, baby. They got great tailgating, great barbecue, great waistlines. Like, yes, you got all that, everything and more. And that's huge. But you're playing against a guy who has no emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing against an assassin, basically, in Joe Burrow. You're playing against a guy who is cold as ice. Like, yes, that's him.
Yeah.
That's Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
So, like, Pat Mahomes and his heroic, like, a high ankle sprain is a broken leg. Let's remind people of that, Bloom.
Yeah.
A high ankle sprain is a small fracture in your shin. It's a broken leg. So Pat Mahomes, and remember, high ankle, this ain't a low ankle sprain, baby. You ain't playing pickup at the YMCA, right? With that fat guy from high school who used to think he was good. And yes, that guy used to be me. But anyway, he went out there and played an NFL game with a broken leg that most of the time knocks guys out for a month. High ankle sprain. You and I have covered this long enough. Like, anytime I see high ankle sprain come across the news wire, I don't even have to look it up. I'm just like, okay, it's about a month. Usually these take about a month. And he came back in. So hero meet hero. This is like two of you. This is when Captain America's fighting Iron Man in Civil War. And you're just like, don't, please don't. I mean, yes, awesome. It's awesome. By the way, that they messed up, as perfect as that movie is, and I do love that movie in the MCU, Bloom, they did mess it up from the comic books. I am a comic book snob. I'm a football snob, but I'm a football junkie because I'm like, put it in my veins.
Yeah.
Put it in the air, as Snoop Dogg would say. Snoop's going to run with Ralphie, by the way. Dude, I mean, seriously, how in the hell do we pick this game now? Because, okay, Joe Mixon, and we said it in the preview show, like, hey, if they wanted to, Joe Mixon, a little Samaje Perine, and keep Josh Allen cold, like, I don't think that works against Kansas City. But you have Joe Burrow, which means you always have a chance. And the home field advantage, the 12s, Arrowhead, whatever, that's awesome.
Right. You're
not dealing with a mortal. You're dealing with a cyborg sent back from the future to dominate the NFL. And yeah, man, he's cold-blooded.
Yeah, he is. That's one of the things that really stood out to me from last week's game against the Bills for the Bengals. We talk about this a lot. We've said this so many times on the show. Teams take on the personality of their head coach and their quarterback. Wow, have the Bengals. Hey, I think their head coach has taken on the personality of the quarterback. I mean, this team has taken on Joe Burrow's personality, and it is something to behold in these games. They welcome the challenge. Remember how bad we saw their late season schedule? Oh, man, what a gauntlet. And they just kept getting bigger and rising and rising and rising. We won't talk about this game for 24 minutes because there's a couple of angles here, right? On the Cincinnati side, by the way, real quick, just as an aside, because Cincinnati's won 3 straight times. This is fun. This is a rivalry. This is absolutely becoming a rivalry.
Oh, yeah.
And Kansas City tried to release Chris Lammons, who's one of their special teams aces. Speculation was so they could open up a roster spot maybe for Jody Fortson or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? And it would have been real simple because he just would have reverted to their practice squad, and you could still call up players from the practice squad, right? It's like an arrangement. You know, we're going to release you, bring up someone else, but we may call you up for the game.
Yeah.
The Bengals claimed him.
It's beautiful, man.
The Bengals said, no. You're not going to get that roster spot for free.
Yeah.
Now, they have Marcus Kemp, who's also a special teams ace on their practice squad. So they can just call Marcus Kemp. And I don't think he's even going to join the team, so it doesn't even like to get intel or something. And the Bengals, the cheap Bengals, are going to have to pay his salary for a couple of weeks. But the Bengals are like, no, we're not going to make that easy for you. It's fun. It's just fun to see that. Like, no, we're not.
Hey, how do you afford Joe Burrow when his contract comes up for the cheap Bengals? Go win the Super Bowl.
Right.
Sell a bunch of stuff and get that money so you can pay your quarterback.
Right. So if the Bengals lose this game, it will not be because of the Arrowhead. It probably won't even be because of Patrick Mahomes putting together some Willis Reed performance. It will be because their offensive line is really banged up. All right. Jonah Williams, left tackle. Alex Kappa, I think, right guard. And then because they already lost Lyle Collins.
Yeah.
Now, Hakeem Adeniji is coming around. Jackson Carman, who I believe hadn't played left tackle in the NFL before last week, excellent. And then Max Sharping, former Texans pick. But the offensive line is going to be tested. This is why Brian Callahan's going to be a head coach soon. Okay, what did the Bengals do? No problem. We're a running team. We're a running team. We're going to Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine, motorboat specials, right?
Yeah.
Good luck tackling those guys. And you just saw it demoralize the Bills. It just demoralized them. Don't tell me a running game doesn't matter in the 2023 NFL. It just demoralized them. And then when it is third down, Joe Burrow is going to find a way to make a play, maybe with his legs. You've got Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Hurst. And when the ball's in the air, if Hurst is on the other end of it, if it comes down to that, maybe that's the play I'm least confident in. But, Chase probably going to make the play. Higgins, he's going to make the play. Boyd, you like Boyd as your number 3 receiver. On the Kansas City side, there are some players. There are 2 first-round picks this year, George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie. Now, it's late. Rookie wall. They're not rookies anymore. We'll see what happens. Are they the guys that are going to be the GOATs or the GOAT because they make the play in a good way? You have some veterans up front. Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap. You got Justin Reed, who they assigned to replace the Honey Badger. You've got those 2 great linebackers inside, Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. And you've got a rookie 7th rounder, Jalen Watson, who's been outstanding making plays. And, of course, L'Jarius Sneed.
Another player the Broncos passed on so they could get
Yes.
Montreal Washington.
Yes,
and he's 6'2", is from Washington State, but he's like 6'2", can run, he's got length, and you're like, nah.
No, we want to return man. So, there's some
3 or whatever.
There's some X factor guys there, but I think it's going to come down to how well they hold up against the run. And I think the beauty of that for the Bengals is you're not exposing your offensive line. And
it's easier for the offensive line because you can go forward and be the aggressor. So
yeah, it was something to behold. Now we flip over to the Kansas City side. Patrick Mahomes is hurt. Like Cecil was saying, he's hurt. Okay. And he's playing, he's hurt. And Lou Anarumo, am I saying that right? I don't remember how to say his last name. Who, remember, the Bengals hired him almost as like a desperation. That nobody wanted to be the defensive coordinator for them. And he has been amazing because and the same thing they did last year, different weeks, different players stepping up. And you get to craft a game plan knowing that Patrick Mahomes is not going to be able to move as well. You know that, right? Now, what did this team do last year in the AFC title game? It's rush 3, drop 8. And Patrick Mahomes reverted back to static. Just smoke would come out of his ears. So you can do that. And not only do you can do that, but now, is this where we see Tyreek Hill not being there matter? Is this where we finally see, like, okay, you can say, hey, we lost Tyreek Hill, we traded him, whatever. It doesn't matter. Does it matter now? Because I think the problem is when at the other end of those throws is Juju Smith-Schuster, or maybe Kadarius Toney. Maybe this is Kadarius Toney's breakout game. Maybe this is when everyone says Kadarius Toney, legendary player, because he has that kind of talent. You need somebody that's going to add value. It's not Marquez Valdez-Scantling, right? It's not Sky Moore. He's not ready. Mecole Hardman is hurt, whatever. He's got only a limited application. So that the Bengals defense is playing well. They have a lot of injured players, and that they'll be adding some value with the scheme and the play calls, even down to the sequencing, much like an offense, right? You've even seen the Bengals defense like show that they're going to blitz and drop everyone to coverage, or show that they're going to drop into coverage and blitz. They have so many players. I'm rooting for the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. I want to see the Bengals win the Super Bowl this year. I want it to happen. I want it to happen for this city. I want it to happen for these players. I want it to happen for Mike Hilton. My all-time favorite Steelers.
Yeah.
Right? Mike Hilton coming on the corner blitz. I
get a tear every time I see him. I'm like, oh.
He should still be a Steeler.
Yes.
You got Trey Hendrickson, who's a little banged up, and Sam Hubbard. Sam Hubbard, his big play, we'll always remember from the divisional round. I'm sorry, the wild card round against Baltimore. And then you also have some guys that have elevated their game, like Eli Apple, making that final pass breakup. And they have their own rookie, Cam Taylor-Britt. Get to know this kid. Wow. Every time I've watched the Bengals this year, he's made at least one play. Like Diego says in the chat room, Andy's going to give Kelsey 20 touches. So yeah, Kelsey could easily, from a gambling standpoint, prop standpoint, Kelsey could easily catch 15 balls in this game. I mean, that's the guy that's all going to fall on without Hill, but that's not going to be lost on the Bengals, who also have some young athletic linebackers like Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. They also have Jesse Bates. He's pretty good. Von Bell, former Saint, he's pretty good. Even that Dax Hill, the first-round pick.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, at every layer of the defense, you've got players. And Kansas City, normally depending on that Mahomes magic, because Kansas City's not going to establish run with Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. I mean, that's not an option for Kansas City. They're just not built for it. Kansas City can't get into that kind of close-in body blow kind of game. They're built to hinge on Patrick Mahomes, who has one healthy leg. So, yeah. And then again, that mental advantage, the Bengals winning these last 3 matchups against the Chiefs. See, this is the one team that the Chiefs don't have their swagger against, right? This is the team that the Chiefs are the team with the self-doubt. You hope as a Chiefs fan that the fans, the familiar surroundings, still haven't played a playoff game as a road team as with Patrick Mahomes, which is remarkable.
And no lead is safe. I mean, talk about getting in your head. The Bengals are going to be like Rafi at the bar. I'm in your head, bro. Like, and I'm going to do a bunch of stuff that I can't say on YouTube, but like, that's it. And Kansas City knows it. So because if you meet an opponent you're not familiar with and you get a couple of blows on them and you're like, okay, that worked and we can do this. And man, we're feeling good. Against Cincinnati, you could be up 21-0 and be like, oh God.
Last year. Yeah.
Yeah. And in every game, there's always sways. There's always momentum shifts. And if everything's going your way, it doesn't stay that way in the NFL.
Never.
So in Cincinnati isn't like, and now there's a field goal. Now they just come back and strike.
Yeah. We remember last year, the Kansas City won the toss, right? Kansas City won the toss.
Yeah.
And it was like, and remember Mahomes was driving down. Oh, they're going to get the touchdown and win in regulation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really mentally tough Bengals team. And can you tell who we're going to pick in this one? So, that's maybe the only challenge. See, I think the only challenge for the Bengals at this point, and I think Burrow looks after this, is not to start to think, oh, Mahomes is hurt, we're going to win. You still got to play with that same intensity and the same urgency, but also at the same time, that tranquility that they played with. Nothing is promised to this team. I think they know that. I don't think they're going to listen to all the people like us saying, how are you going to win with Patrick Mahomes hurt? But yeah, it's hard to, this Bengals team, you see a team that got this close last year, and you can tell they're not going to let this opportunity slip away.
I think I'm going to take this stogie to Vegas. Yeah. Wait, TSA is not going to strip me down for this, right? Flying back from Vegas, I almost took my pants off because the guy was like, "Oh, let me check it," and I just started taking my pants off. I was like, "Yeah, dude, I need to go through naked. Like, what do I need to do here?
Right?
Come on,
body cavity search.
Let's go. Come on.
Actually, that might be kind of fun.
Oh, you found my Bengals prop ticket.
Now it's my turn, TSA agent.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Bengals, and again, it could easily be the Chiefs. Okay, easily be the Chiefs, but I look in this game of emotion. I look in this game of geometry. I look into these individual matchups, and then it just comes back to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is the kryptonite for Kansas City. So I know, go get another ring, Kansas City, if we're going to call you a dynasty. Because it's what, five AFC championship games for Pat Mahomes, whatever the number is. Yeah. One ring, like, okay, another one. You don't need to be New England. I think obviously we're going through the Brady era. That was just different, but yeah, to be a dynasty, you got to get more than one. But you have the Bengals trying to get there first, and you have the Bengals with Joey P. So yeah, I'm picking Cincinnati. What am I going to pick? Like 35-31, 35-30, or something, 28-27, like. I don't know, dude. Again, I just want to sit back, enjoy this game, because it's going to be a wild, wild ride. And Crackshot asks, how many crow pies? Yeah, baby. Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever. Like, that doesn't even bother me. Like, because both of these games could go either way. And there's really no way to pick either game. But I'm going to pick Joe Burrow. I'm going to pick Kyle Shanahan which means in the Super Bowl, we're going to have San Francisco against Cincinnati.
Yeah. Round 3.
And then it's going to be, sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, right. Joe Montana's not walking through that door. Jerry Rice is walking through that door. Yeah, I got to pick the Bengals here. And actually, even though I echo what you're saying at the beginning of the show, too, like these are tough games to pick. The more I think about it, this is kind of like when Mahomes was in the Super Bowl against Tampa. He was hurt. Remember, his foot was messed up, right? His offensive line was all messed up, and they just got housed. I'm not saying they're going to get housed in their own house, but I do think that this is tough because what is it that separates? I really do think that this is the game that you see not having the fear that Tyreek Hill puts into defenses is going to matter. It's going to really matter. And it's almost going to allow the Bengals to dictate unless Mahomes proves that he can do more than we expect him to do. So, yeah, I'm picking the Bengals here, like 26-14, something like that. And, yeah, Cincinnati, San Francisco, round 3 seems like the inevitable game when we walk through these games. But however it turns out, salute to the players, again, with Damar Hamlin reminding us how much the players put on the line every week. Salute to the players for giving us this spectacle that we can't look away from. And more importantly, it gets us in touch with all these stories, all these individual players, their epic stories that all come together, and we get to enjoy it. And it releases us for a few hours from whatever's been weighing on us or bothering us. So it's a beautiful thing. The 4 best teams, I think we can say the 4 best teams made it. Made the 2 best teams advance.
Well said. That is a wrap for the championship preview games here on the Audible. And yeah, man, we will. When's our next show, Bloom?
I don't know. You're going to be on the road next week. We've got Snorkel Scuba Submarine at some point.
Yes.
Maybe we'll be checking in.
I may text you. Yeah, let me text you. And it's going to basically depend on your schedule, Bloom, because I'll just be like, hey, I'm in Mobile now. I want to do a show. So we might do, I kind of like doing Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl in the moment, because for years we've kind of like waited, and then I have to go back through my notes like 3 weeks later and be like, who was it? So yeah, if we're kind of more in the moment, I wouldn't mind that. But again, it just depends on scheduling. Because the next week they have to have the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl the same week. Thanks, everybody. It's awful. Anyway, so 2 days in Vegas, 2 days in Mobile, and then 2 days in Vegas. So yeah, gonna be a busy week, but we'll be here for you, and we'll keep you up to date and check in with Football Guys and our newsletter and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, Bloom, I will push to get together with our community, because I like doing our shows, even when it's just news and notes, because there's always something to talk about.
Yeah. And seeing that, we're past the season, still the 40, 50, 60 faithful that show up live and hang out with us. I mean, it heartens us as much as it heartens you that we're here. So, and there's a lot of reasons in the football world to always be here. There's going to be some coaching hires. There's going to be the All-Star games. There's Snorkel, Scuba, Submarine. There's all kinds of stuff to talk about, and we love talking about it with each other and with all of y'all in our chat room and in our community, because you're the best. You're the classiest.
That's right. Everyone out there, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty.